Ninja World, Insect Princess from Konoha Chapter 1, Ninjas Don't Take the Beaten Path. In the summer of Konoha's 15th year, it had been 2 or 3 years since the end of the First Ninja World War. The 5 major ninja villages were recuperating and accumulating strength. The cruel ninja war seems to have stopped, but occasionally I hear that a certain ninja died on a mission outside. Unlike previous years, there was always an air of tension and sadness lingering over the village. At this time, the Konoha Ninja School was always full of vitality and seemed not to be affected by the war at all. Looking at the energetic brats in the school, the very young Sandaime Hokage retracted his gaze with pleasure and looked at the piles of documents. There are various signs that the war is about to end completely. The 5 major villages are unable to cope with the consumption of the war and need to take a breath. There should be no new wars in the next 10 years. Right now, what they have to deal with are the internal problems that have arisen since the establishment of the village during the Warring States period. One of them is the old man of the Senju, the second is the Uchiha, and the third is the major ninja clan. As Hokage, he still has a lot to do. But what is gratifying is that a new generation of buds in Konoha is growing, and it is time to choose a disciple to convey the will of fire. Smashing the cigarette holder, the Sandaime's eyes were deep and distant. I wonder what kind of buds there will be in the ninja school. Crack. The teacher on the podium was talking non-stop, and his ears moved and he noticed a subtle abnormal sound in the classroom. Almost immediately, the teacher focused his attention on a fat girl in the class. This child is from the Akimichi clan, so snacks must be his symbol. However, as if she noticed the teacher's ferocious eyes, the little chubby girl showed a blank expression as if she didn't notice anything. I don't know why the teacher is looking at her. At this moment, there was another harsh crunching sound. That's right, someone is definitely eating it, but it's not the fat girl with a confused look in front of her. The teacher cast suspicious eyes on the many kiddies in the class, all of whom had normal expressions. He didn't look like someone so bold that he could steal food in front of a senior elite chunin on the first day of school. Who is it? There was no reason for these brats to hide this from his eyes and ears. But since this was their first meeting, he really didn't know the details of these brats. But not finding it would be too detrimental to the teacher's dignity. While talking about some of the ideal goals of the ninja school, his eyes like an eagle stared closely at the many brats. There was nothing unusual, but the crackling sounds that came from time to time tortured the eardrums of this elite chunin. Before he knew it, his forehead was covered with bulging veins, and even the tone of his speech became vicious. This little devil. This little devil. You simply don't take me seriously. Too arrogant. Crack. At this moment, a soft and waxy little girl's voice quietly sounded. What are you eating? She was asking another girl at the table next to her, and thought her voice was so low that the teacher didn't hear her. But as a senior chunin, how could such a small move go unnoticed by him? With a quick glance, the teacher stared closely at the 2 girls involved. One of the girls has a pair of eye-catching white eyes, and her snow-white skin looks like a delicate porcelain doll. As for the other girl, honestly speaking, it's hard to tell whether she's a boy or a girl based on her appearance. If she hadn't spoken. What are you eating? Don't you have a supercilious look? You can see for yourself. Her voice was very nice, as sweet and graceful as a lark, and the volume was not low at all. Rather, she had no sense of self-consciousness or guilt that she had made a mistake. Too arrogant. Now brat. Didn't take him seriously at all. The teacher stared closely at the girl who spoke. At this time, the whole class looked at the girl. She was dressed in pure white, with a hooded pure white robe on her upper body. A few strands of long black hair were exposed under the hood. Her whole body was wrapped tightly, and she even wore a pair of the white color looks like a fox's mask, and there are stick figure patterns on the mask that look like some kind of insect. This outfit looks a bit familiar. It seems like a certain family in the village. However, no wonder I didn't realize it before. Under the mask, apart from the white eyes, who knows what she ate? Rather, it was too difficult to detect what she had eaten and whether she had eaten anything since her hands did not move abnormally. But, got you. The teacher took a deep breath. At this time, the obedient little girl with white eyes made a clear drink, opened her white eyes and looked at the masked girl. Crack. Without any movement, the girl under the mask chewed up this unknown snack again. A vague and profound fragrance seduced the little girl with white eyes and looked over it itchingly. First, his whole body stiffened suddenly, and then the next second, the miserable scream of the little girl with white eyes echoed throughout the classroom. Within a moment, the little girl with white eyes suddenly fell backwards, her head short-circuited and she passed out. The incident happened suddenly, and everyone in the class looked at the culprit with strange eyes. The little girl in the mask just spread her hands helplessly, indicating that she was innocent. "I didn't do anything. She fainted on her own." The teacher's eyes had narrowed at this time, looking at the little girl in the mask and said, "Kid, your name?" "Aburame Meiji." As expected, it was the Aburame clan who actually scared the Byakugan clan to unconsciousness. At this age, they had already begun to practice the family's secret arts. Thinking of what the little girl with white eyes might have seen, the teacher couldn't help but feel his scalp tingling. Although I have never seen it, I can imagine the terrifying appearance inside the body of the female clan. "You guy, what did you secretly eat just now? Do you want to eat, teacher?" Meiji was very generous. As she spoke, she stretched out her hand, and her fleshy little hands were already covered with dense black beetles. Seeing this scene, not only the teacher, but also the whole class felt itchy teeth. "It's not greedy, it's disgusting." Some little girls couldn't help but cover their mouths and retched. "No, I have never heard of rumors that the Aburame clan eats the bugs they raise. What a strange kid. No need." The teacher gritted his teeth and said. "He didn't want to eat it at all." "Oh," the girl's tone was still regretful after she took the insect back. "It's delicious, crunchy and crunchy. I have not only original flavor here, but also milk flavor, spiced flavor, cocoa flavor, and candied fruit flavor." At this time, the girl who had briefly lost consciousness and fainted got up and tried to stay away from her deskmate as if she were hiding from the plague. She looked like she could cry pitifully at any time and was holding back. "You guy. Do you know you can't steal food during class?" After glancing at the scared little girl with white eyes, the teacher suppressed his anger and said, "Since it's the first day of class, it's understandable that you don't know the rules." "Yeah. I know," the little girl in the mask said decisively. Hearing this, the veins on the teacher's forehead jumped sharply. "Get out of here." Standing in the hallway. Without any sign of remorse or fear, he walked with a little joyful step, the red clogs under his feet wrapped in pure white footbags clacked, and his mouth kept clacking as he walked to the classroom door and stood outside. The teacher stood on the podium, having a headache and taking deep breaths. "At this moment, it seems that I can foresee a troubled teaching career in the future. Now, everyone, let's briefly introduce ourselves. Ninja World, Insect Princess from Konoha Chapter 2, Maggie's Cat. No one's coming. Don't be so shy. Let the teacher demonstrate it first." "Teacher, my name is Ogawa Masaru. What I like is wine, what I hate is war, and my ideal is to be an excellent teacher. Do you know how to introduce yourself? Who comes first?" With Ogawa's encouragement, someone soon began to introduce themselves, and the atmosphere in the class seemed to return to normal. Standing in the corridor, Meiji's mind was not on introducing herself to the class. She seemed to be in a daze, but she had actually entered another perspective, that of a bug. Due to an inexplicable connection, Mickey is controlling the parasitic insects far away in Konoha Forest to capture rare or special insects through the perspective of insects. It's a fantastic perspective. Experience the immersive experience of controlling the insect swarm. Unlike those tribesmen, controlling parasites requires secret techniques, and it is far less easy than Meiji. As long as her thoughts are moved, the insect swarms within the coverage area will act according to Meiji's ideas. It was as if Meiji herself was a swarm of insects. Rather, Meiji is now like the master and brain of the insect swarm. The insect swarm is Meiji's hands and feet. At this time, the self-introduction to the class attracted Meiji's attention. "Tsunade, what I like is gambling, I hate losing money, my ideal is to win money." This is a very beautiful little girl with light yellow hair and a high ponytail. Tsunade. Under the mask, Meiji couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. At this time, she has not yet started practicing medical ninjutsu. In the plan, medical ninjutsu is essential. I am Jiraiya. I like my eldest sister, but what I hate is. Jiraiya now looked incredibly stupid. At first glance, he looks like a particularly annoying kid. No need to waste time on him yet. However, there was no look like Orochimaru in the class. This is the person that Meiji is destined to become a friend. However, there is no need to rush for this moment, there is still a long time. Abure Meiji. Come in and introduce yourself. Hearing this, Meiji walked into the classroom, looked around at everyone and said, Abure Meiji, what she likes are bugs, what she hates are people, and her ideal is the stars and the sea. He is indeed a strange child. The teacher nodded and said, do you know you are wrong? Meiji nodded. Seeing Meiji's well-behaved look, the teacher said, will you do it again next time? Definitely next time. Meiji said simply. There was no fear at all. The teacher felt his head was buzzing, and waved his hand silently for a while, motioning for Meiji to sit back. What can he do? What else could he do? He can only be desperate. Teacher. The little Hinata girl raised her hands weakly, looking like she was about to cry. Explain. Can I not sit with Aburame-san? The little Hinata girl was already crying, looking at the teacher with tearful eyes. Who wants to sit with Aburame? There was a wordless silence in the whole class. No one, not even the boy, wanted to sit with a person covered in bugs. Seeing this, the teacher felt dizzy. At this time, a little girl said that she was not afraid at all, and said to the rescue, Teacher, she can sit with me. The teacher couldn't help but his eyes lit up and he looked at the little blonde girl who was speaking. She is worthy of being the granddaughter of the first generation, Tsunadeheim of Konoha. This kind of courage is unmatched by ordinary people. Meiji couldn't help but look at Tsunade. With this person's character, he didn't seem to be a gentle and considerate guy who could help people out of trouble. He must have other ideas. Abure Meiji, please sit where Tsunade is. Miki walked up to Tsunade, who was staring at Aburame with interest the whole time. As a child, it's not surprising no matter what wonderful ideas you have. Ignoring Tsunade's gaze, Miki sat down comfortably. Miki is not interested in the current Tsunade. It would take at least a year before Meiji showed any interest. At that time, without any accident, all the Sannin would be accepted as disciples by the third Hokage. You are very strong. Tsunade whispered. Miki couldn't help but glance at Tsunade. At this stage when everyone doesn't even know the three-body technique, it's not impossible for Miki, who already knows the family's secret technique, to be the strongest in the class. As the granddaughter of the first generation, she still has some knowledge. Not to mention most of the class, it can be said that only a few people have mastered the refining of chakra. The crying Hinata girl is one of them, she is a genius at this age. But I'm stronger than you, huh? The blonde princess snorted and turned her head away from looking at Meiji. Laughing to death, but not quite laughing to death. As she said that, a crunching sound came from Meiji's mouth. Hearing the sound, veins popped out of the teacher's forehead on the podium and he took a deep breath. Tsunade, on the other hand, sniffed, a faint fragrance lingering on the tip of her nose. This smell is so fragrant. He snorted disdainfully in response. The teacher on the podium ignored Meiji's actions and began a formal lecture. The day's study ended very normally. The school did not teach about ninja training. As soon as school was over in the afternoon, Meiji went straight to the forest. The chakra control training of treading on water and trees ended half a year ago. He stepped on the roof and tree trunks all the way, and successfully arrived at his secret base. It's a bit of a stretch to call it a base, to be precise it's a dark crypt. In addition to candlelight, the light source is also a flying insect that emits green fluorescence. It's dark and damp, which is difficult for humans, but ideal for bugs. Strictly speaking, this is an insect den, with passages extending in all directions leading to hidden places on the ground. In terms of ventilation, the entire crypt is not stuffy. The passages along the way are full of flying parasites. The dense swarms of insects make people feel conflicted and frightened from the bottom of their hearts. Normal people, even normal ninjas, will lack the interest to explore after just one glance. Security and concealment were nothing to worry about, and besides, there was nothing valuable or shady about it. In the planned plan, this place was developed as a laboratory. It took half a year to excavate a cavity of about 200 square meters 50 meters underground by the parasite swarm. Only the main body of it has been completed so far. The main hall is stacked with experimental bodies captured by Meiji, and the side room is a place to rest. Apart from tables, chairs, cabinets and beds, there is nothing else that seems superfluous. On the rows of vertical cabinets, glass bottles and wire cages are neatly placed. Inside the bottles and cages are experimental bodies. Most of the various insects, small animals and plants are dead, embalmed, soaked in preservatives, or made into specimens. They are not strictly for collection. The cells of these little cuties are not completely dead yet, and they may be useful one day in the future. The entire crypt, surrounded by dark yellow and green fluorescence, looks very much like the secret operating room of an evil lich. It's very scary, very underworld and very grounded in the underworld. It's not that Meiji doesn't want to make it brighter and more sci-fi, but that Meiji really has no money. It would be better to say that Meiji, who just turned 6 this year, has no money at all. Not only the furniture and glass bottles, it can be said that everything here was collected by Meiji through the hard work of the insect swarm. Experiment started, recording, infection progress test. Holding a burning candlestick in one hand, he dragged out a small cage with the other. There was an adult black cat in a cage, not a ninja cat, but a stray wild cat. The black cat was dying in the cage, as if it would die at any time. Meiji found paper and pen and looked at the black cat quietly. At a certain moment, the fear in black cat's mind suddenly disappeared and turned into a stable emotion. The infection is complete, the progress is 100%, the spirit is linked. This is one of the manifestations of Meiji's ability. She can establish a link with the insect swarms under her command, sense their moods, and freely control their behavior. The premise is infection. After repeated experiments, in addition to bugs, animals and plants are all targets that can be infected. The body is currently in a stable mood, and the infection period is 366 hours. Compared with the infection experiments of ants for 6 minutes, mice for 11 hours, and kittens for 16 hours, it can be confirmed that the larger the body, the slower the progress of the infection, which may be related to the number of cells in the body. While talking, Meiji took notes. But compared with young cats, the difference in infection time between adult cats and young cats is too big. Even if the number of cells in adults is 2 to 3 times that of young cats, there should not be such a huge gap. There is reason to suspect there are other important influencing factors. For example, the resistance of the mind. Bugs are not only small in size, but also have simple brains, so they can be easily infected and controlled by Meiji. The young ones are very ignorant. As for the adult cats, to be honest, they are very smart as a human being between 2 and 3 years old. The above remains to be observed. There is currently a lack of testing for chakra biotin body infection. Meiji actually has a physical body that can barely be considered a chakra creature. Parasites. But the problem is that it is not exactly that. It eats chakra, but does not produce chakra itself. Through constant observation and experiments, Meiji discovered that this little thing can digest chakra and convert it into life energy again. To maintain survival needs. It's a very wonderful creature. It can be used as a very excellent chakra conductor material. Meiji turned to look at the other experimental bodies on the counter. There were other experiments in progress. This is another application of Meiji's ability. Copy target genes through infection, plunder and re-optimize and distribute combinations of genes. That is evolution. Or mutation. The overall performance of the ability is very similar to the Zerg in StarCraft. Meiji thought of this almost immediately after she instinctively discovered her ability. The finished product is already there, and it is the snack that Meiji eats in class. Essentially, they are honeypot bugs based on the template of parasitic bugs. They have a very short lifespan and have no larval stage. Under the stimulation of chakra, they are born as adults. After absorbing enough food and storing it, the cherry-sized honeypot with swollen abdomen will automatically detach, and the adult will die immediately. You can eat almost anything, and its preservation effect is extremely good. It can be said that it is a delicious juicy jelly bean. It's just that the processing technology may be a bit unacceptable. While Meiji is accumulating experience, she has transformed several varieties on this basis. The next step is to make it huge. But Meiji's current plan is to turn the parasite colony into an ant colony. That is superindividualization. Ninja World, Insect Princess from Konoha Chapter 3, Hyperindividuation. Superorganism. Simply put, it is a tight collective. When you find a herd of deer in the wild, perhaps what you find is not a herd, but a group of individuals who happen to get together. It will hunt its own food, collect resources, breed offspring, and think for itself, but it will not divide labor in detail and assemble into a social whole. From this perspective, a superorganism, that is, a true social creature, has these three characteristics. Division of reproductive labor, overlapping generations, and socialized upbringing. So, why hyperindividuation and what are the benefits? The answer is resources, namely sustainable development. The problem lies in the parasites. The group of parasites you see is not a real insect swarm. They are not social. It can be said that they are forced together under the influence of artificial force. It can even be said that parasites are not real insects and are not social. This highly specialized species is different from any natural species that Meiji has ever seen. Their species has no future. You won't see a single wild parasite anywhere in the wild. The development of their family is deeply bound to the host. When a host dies, it means the destruction of the insect swarm. Every child of the Aburame clan will acquire the eggs of parasitic insects when they are young. The moment a child successfully extracts chakra, it means the rise of a swarm of insects. Chakra causes the eggs to hatch, and the adult parasites crawl out of them. This means that this kind of insect becomes an adult immediately after birth. So, here comes the problem. Who plays the role of breeding? Adult parasites? No, adult parasites will only mate and lay eggs, and what happens next is none of their business. This is the result of high specialization after coevolution. The host plays the role of a mother who raises the bug to adulthood, even if the bug has no larvae and develops directly into an adult in the eggs. But the chakra input is the nourishment for the growth of the larvae. This also means that once separated from the host, the parasite loses the ability to reproduce, and the only outcome is destruction. Figuratively speaking, parasitic bugs are a group of professional warriors who are completely out of work. In addition to playing, they usually only eat and mate. Generally speaking, if you don't work, if you work, you will definitely die. This species has no future in the wild nature. This also means that the size of the insect swarm is actually directly proportional to the size of its own chakra. To maintain it, food, or chakra, is consumed. This also means that the size of the insect swarm is limited, which extremely limits the strength of the Aburame clan. If she doesn't solve this problem, Meiji knows that she has no future. In order to support the huge insect swarm that far exceeds this age group, Meiji has ordered the insect swarm to hunt independently. To offset part of the chakra consumption. When they really can't withstand the consumption, in order to prevent environmental damage, Meiji will let some of the insect swarms commit suicide on the spot, and the corpses will be collected as the insect swarm's food reserves. But doing this all the time is not a good idea. Therefore, resources and sustainable development are a huge issue. In addition, I got parasitic worms when I was more than 4 years old. After more than a year of use experience, parasitic worms have also exposed many other problems. It can be said that the parasitic bug is the laziest beetle that Meiji has ever seen. If there is no special instruction, the parasitic bug will dare to lie down and eat Meiji's chakra all the time. It is more parasite than a parasite. Among them, the biggest problem is execution. There is no doubt that the parasite can faithfully carry out Meiji's instructions, although there will be some minor problems in execution. For example, building a nest. Two complicated instructions cannot be executed perfectly and can only be carried out in a general direction. Not to mention Meiji, this is the case for all insects of the same family. This is a question of IQ. Compared to her peers, Meiji is advantageous in that she can perform real-time microcontrol, controlling the movements of the insect swarm as delicately as her hands and feet. This allows the insect swarm to complete extremely complex instructions. And therein lies the problem. When the crypt was first dug, Meiji was not aware of it, and a large group of insects suffocated and died in the excavated crypt due to ventilation problems. Therefore, once the parasite swarm is allowed to move freely, it will turn from having brains to being brainless. What we can do is not to rely on God's will, but to lie down. Once the current task is over, they don't know what to do and fall into a state of confusion. They instinctively lie down on standby. If there is food, they will lie on it. If there is nothing to eat, they will instinctively look for food when they are really hungry. Not to mention hunting in groups, sometimes whether you can find food depends on God's face. Even mating and even egg-laying are all carried out under the leadership of the Aburame clan. To a certain extent, the parasites were perfectly trained by the Aburame clan. It is an obedient biological weapon. But if you are too obedient, you will lose your independence, so you have to rely on the Aburame clan for everything, and you have to put your food in front of your mouth. Independent development is nothing but development. And it is impossible for Meiji to keep an eye on these bugs all the time and instruct them how they should divide labor and cooperate, how they should farm and breed, and how they should have children. And it's a waste of time to teach them, they have no memory at all. There are no solutions, and superorganism is one of them. For example, ants, their behavior is engraved on the expression of genes. What Meiji has to do is to copy this gene from the ants and engrave it into the genes of the parasites. That is, the transcription of a program or behavioral algorithm. The algorithm of ants determines that every ant is needed when it is born. It acts according to the algorithm of genes as soon as it is born. It does not need leaders and does not need meetings and discussions. It performs its own work according to the behavioral algorithm and performs its duties. Each ant will act according to the best behavior algorithm trained by its ancestors after hundreds of millions of years of big data evolution. Therefore, after extensive observation, Meiji selected a local kind of cool-looking ant. Named by Meiji as a completely different giant-headed leafcutter ant. He is the overlord of the ant colony in Konoha. They are characterized by their large heads. Although they are called leafcutter ants, they do not cut leaves, but they can grow mushrooms. They are not considered army ants themselves. They will use the exit of the nest as a stronghold and march to the surrounding areas. The size difference between individuals is huge. The largest individual is at least 500 times larger than the smallest, so it is called completely different, that is, they are all different. When traveling, the giant ants are riding on small ants, which looks like a team of Butans. The advantage of this is that it saves energy consumption during marching. Not only is the combat capability outstanding in all aspects. The most important thing is that this kind of ant is not aggressive. Although it is super strong, it is very cautious. The previously cultivated honeypot worms can be said to have failed, but not completely. The original intention is to transform a bug that can independently produce chakra and store it. However, this little bug is not mentally qualified for the synthesis of chakra. However, it can store chakra. Although the amount is small, it can be used as a supplement to chakra. The means are sufficient. This can be regarded as a solution to the expansion of insect swarms, but the solution to the fundamental problem depends on superindividualization, that is, sustainable development. At present, a new kind of queen must be cultivated to abandon the low egg-laying efficiency and method of parasitic insects. Instead, it is fertilized once, used for life, and can produce thousands per day. What needs to be done is still a long and big project. This is just the beginning. Genes can be plundered and copied, which means that in this ninja world, the blood inheritance limit is also a harvestable resource for Meiji. Meiji took down several experimental bottles, which were all filled with modified insect eggs. Among them, most of the eggs are dead and died due to gene collapse in the initial stage of genetic recombination. As the master of the insect swarm, Meiji can sense their life, death and health status, which saves Meiji a lot of trouble in observation. And this is not the first batch of experimental subjects, nor is it the last batch. This result is expected. Meiji did not have the means to independently manipulate genes for gene regulation, and she did not even have equipment such as a microscope. She could only use rough transcription through chakra, and the next thing was left to natural selection. That is, look at the face. Therefore, even if the insect eggs survive the initial stage without collapsing, they cannot be said to be successful products. Most of them are deformed, and some of the less deformed ones are far from Meiji's expectations. There is only one way: continuous cultivation. Until success. And once she succeeds a little bit, Meiji can record the expression template of this gene and start manufacturing it. Therefore, we can continue to cultivate and select the best on this basis to achieve the ideal expected value. It is a very time-consuming project. They really look like each one with its own characteristics. To put it simply, cross-species gene transplantation is carried out first, then gene aggregation molecular breeding is carried out, and then group selection is carried out. Some eggs did not turn into adults under the catalysis of chakra. Gene recombination caused them to lose their basic ability to parasitize parasites and quickly mature into adults. And some of the ones that climbed out have their own characteristics. Some of the deformed children with missing arms and legs were selected and destroyed on the spot. The remaining ones were raised and observed for a period of time before deciding whether to stay or go. At the same time, a batch of new eggs were cultivated. Meiji continued her work. After repeating this, throw the selected experimental body into the insect nest ecosystem and let it develop on its own. Genes drive their actions. Ninja World, Insect Princess from Konoha Chapter 4, everyone in the class, the first one to comment will get more updates. I'm back. The house is always spotless, not because my mother cleans very diligently, but because every house of the Aburame clan basically looks like this. Controlling parasites for cleaning is the basis of the basics. Her mother, who was in her mid-20s, was Mickey's only relative. Her grandparents died during the Warring States period, and her father died in the First Ninja War in the 12th year of Konoha. His mother, Yumi, is an ordinary chunin. Her talent as a ninja is not outstanding. In order to raise Mickey, she has retired for many years and runs a small hotel on weekdays. It was already dark outside the house. Yumi was used to Meiji coming home late for a long time, so she said gently, "Welcome back, I'll heat up the food." He just nodded, slightly coldly. It's not that she hates this woman, Mickey respects Yumi as a mother, but Mickey is not a child even though she looks like a child. Mickey has never opened her heart to Yumi, so naturally she doesn't seem to be very close. As for Yumi, who was a first-time mother, in addition to having no experience, she also had the autistic personality common to the Aburame clan. She was at a loss when it came to dealing with Yumi. Therefore, at the dinner table, there was no ordinary conversation between mother and daughter. Yumi just looked at Mickey quietly and tenderly. After the meal, Meiji returned to her room, closed the door, and began to go about her own business. Nighttime is Yumi's reading time. The only ninjutsu scroll at home has been read over and over again. Since she started speaking, Meiji has consciously learned to read and write. Now she has no obstacles in reading and has learned the contents on the scroll. The inheritance left by his father was pitifully small. As a jounin in the village, except for a few family secret arts and the basic three-body technique, he did not have any extra ninjutsu. The family's secret skills are extremely versatile, and there is no need to learn extra ninjutsu, but in this situation, Meiji couldn't help but sigh. Meiji really wants to learn to be a shadow clone in order to achieve the purpose of opening a cheating device. But there is no way to learn ninjutsu. Unless. Does it show the value of investment? After playing with the scroll in his hand for a while, the most valuable thing for Meiji here is the experience of using the parasites left by his father. As a reference, Meiji can avoid many detours. To sum up this secret message, Go hides and releases insects. There are many practical tips for reducing your presence. The first sentence at the beginning is the words, "Silence is golden," highlighted by my father in bold. The clan members basically have this kind of virtue, very much like the Konoha clan. It suits Meiji's taste very well. Well, people don't talk much. But once found by the enemy, the game is basically over. This is how my father died. The tribesman who came back said that he was accidentally blocked by someone on the frontal battlefield. Putting down the scroll, Meiji picked up the book she bought and read it. It was not a book related to ninjutsu, nor a novel to pass the time, but textbooks such as mathematics, physics and chemistry, as well as some essays on geography, local customs, and other books. Among them, Meiji memorized the most about biology. During her reading time, she would occasionally watch the movements of insect swarms to relax. Many of the new bugs that have been cultivated are still in a state of confusion and don't know what to do, but some of them have already begun to build nests. Is this a little bit successful? No, according to the order, marriage should come first. These nest-digging species have almost been eliminated. And reading continued until my mother's alarm clock called me to sleep. Meiji's day officially ended, and she went to work as usual the next day, went to class. After waking up and walking on the commute, it was easy for others to see the sleepy expression under the mask that suggested he had not had enough sleep. When she arrived at the class, Meiji had already arrived very late. Although there was no such thing as early self-study at the ninja school, Meiji was the last one to arrive almost before the deadline. Very subtly, the originally noisy classroom was quiet for a moment because of Meiji's arrival. After a while, these children started making noises on their own as if nothing happened. The child is really innocent and is hated by most of the people in the class. The reason is very simple, because the bugs on Meiji's body are mostly emotions such as fear and disgust. Because of the parasites, Meiji can even smell the subtle smell in the air, which is the pheromones released by the human body. Parasitic bugs are keenly aware of these chemical molecules, but most of them cannot be identified. However, Meiji can mark and identify them one by one through parasitic bugs and build a pheromone information database. When it is almost complete, Meiji will announce it to the clan and establish a communication channel unique to the clan. In fact, there are similar methods of utilization in the clan, but they are still on a very rough surface. It is a simple message transmission based on the concentration of pheromones left by parasites. The children in the class were all feeling fear without knowing it. This was an instinctive and physiological inability to accept Meiji. All the way to her seat, the children nearby subtly distanced themselves from Meiji. So sometimes Meiji hates such a sensitive side of herself, but Meiji has a big heart that has been beaten by society for different children, so she has no interest in pretending to be a family and playing friendly games with them. This is nice and quiet. In essence, Meiji is not an indifferent person. Rather, Meiji thinks that she is quite enthusiastic, cheerful and lively. When the teacher came to the class started as usual. The cultural class at the beginning was not complicated. Many children in the class could not read and write. This was the case for most civilians. Not only did they read and write, but they also had to count on their fingers for arithmetic. It takes a lot of effort for the teacher to teach these children. Especially the little white-haired guy named Jiraiya. Even if he has no foundation, he is still very stupid. He often makes all kinds of jokes and is the joy of everyone in the class, even though the teacher wants to cry but has no tears. Having said that, most people, whether Tsunade or others, regard him as an incompletely evolved monkey. After a month, all that was taught was this kind of thing. Geography, history, ideology, and politics were in decline. Compared with the vague primary school courses in my memory, they were only stronger but not weaker. Because it is a 6-year graduation system, there is no college, middle or high school system. The large amount of knowledge makes the course schedule particularly tight. If you can't keep up, it will be difficult to keep up. Although there is no sign of this now, according to the course schedule, Meiji has a keen insight. To this point. In terms of culture, the professors in the school are cramming and do not expect these children to have excellent culture. Therefore, only the truly smart people can keep up with the progress, and those who lag behind will be eliminated mercilessly. Meiji didn't see any of the courses with ninja characteristics that she dreamed of. However, the school arranged a physical education class every day, which was just about running and doing some exercise. With these simple exercises, you can easily identify the foundation and potential of these children. After a while, Tsunade, who was at the same table, relied on her family training to become the best in taijutsu. As a result, he successfully won the dominance of the class. Basically, he beat everyone who could be beaten, and the children in the class were all honest under Tsunade's power. However, the thorn-headed Jiraiya didn't know whether he had a big heart or a stubborn head, and he never tired of provoking Tsunade. Meiji could clearly see the admiration of a child. Tsunade is so beautiful. Although there are several beauties in the class who are not inferior to Tsunade, due to the status bonus of Konoha Princess, the boys default to her as the class beauty, and there are many people who like her. Although Jiraiya is very stupid, he is not actually at the bottom of the class. He has a very poor foundation in physical skills, but he can still be ranked in the middle of the pack. This shows that his potential is not low. You know, this class can be said to be the elite class of this year, and they are basically the children of the major ninja clans. It is very rare for Jiraiya to achieve such results without any foundation. Although the culture stretches the crotch. The real tail end of the crane is a cute and girl-like guy named Bailuhu. Because of my appearance, I was often bullied by boys in my class. As for Tsunade, the leader of the Konoha Princess class, she is not yet considerate, gentle and considerate enough to stand up for others. Therefore, for a period of time, the whole person was very depressed and basically autistic. In addition, there were several classmates in the class who caught Meiji's attention. Ninja World, Insect Princess from Konoha Chapter 5, Maggie's Terror. The first is the white-eyed girl who was frightened by Mickey. This child is called Hinata Hitomi. As a member of the famous Hinata family, her own physical skills are not weak. Although her personality is a bit weak, she does not lack perseverance and always works hard to stay in the position. First echelon. In addition, this child is a member of a separate family. He started wearing a bandage to go to school on a certain day. It also started on this day, which made the child work harder, but he could never close the distance between him and Tsunade. It's like a little bird in a cage that longs for freedom and its wings desperately. And the other girl is called Uchiha Governance. This girl is not noticeable in the class. She is different from the other arrogant Uchiha. Her personality is too calm and she usually does not show off in the class. She is obviously capable but does not stand out. Although she is cute, she is almost a little transparent. It's not that he intentionally hides his clumsiness, it's just due to his own personality. Compared to Tsunade, who is slightly naive now, her management is too mature. According to his performance, he is currently ranked in the middle of the class, but he has always looked at ease in physical education classes without breaking a sweat. Compared to Jiraiya, who looked like a dead dog after risking his life for this position, he was obviously more than a little stronger. Meiji will notice her simply because of her name. If there are no unexpected developments, this girl will be the strongest female ninja in the history of the Uchiha clan, a ruthless character who developed the forbidden technique Izanami. Meiji feels that this girl is like a firework. If it doesn't bloom now, it will definitely be eye-catching when it blooms. The other people in the same period who followed were all ordinary guys in Meiji's eyes. Meiji herself remains in the first echelon, and she is first in the cultural class. The things in the book are too simple, and she can get first place just by filling in them. But she knows her own affairs well, and these things are at the current stage. Because I have already learned it, I can still maintain this ranking. As the learning knowledge deepens, it is difficult to say. As for the physical test, since she has mastered chakra, it is not difficult to maintain the current results. However, Meiji knows that her ability in physical skills is very limited, or her talent is limited. After spending nearly half a year to complete treading water at that time, Meiji felt it clearly. Therefore, due to early learning, my own progress is more than half a year ahead of these same periods. Compared to famous families like Tsunade, they are on the same starting line and do not have an advantage. Moreover, most of the energy is spent on cultivating insects. As time goes by, it is natural that the gap will be caught up or even surpassed by later generations. While others were working hard in class, most of Meiji's attention was on the bugs on the other side, making daily observations, so it wouldn't be strange for Meiji to be left far away by others. Meiji, who is usually taciturn, also looks a little gloomy and dull because of this kind of thing. Her attention is diverted for a long time, which makes her look like she is in a daze to others most of the time. Although due to the mask, only the teacher discovered that Meiji was absent from class. But this also resulted in Miki and Tsunade not saying a word to each other for such a long time. Because Miki never took the initiative to talk to her, the proud Tsunade also decided to ignore Miki. But every time, he would try his best and smile contemptuously at Meiji. Miki, on the other hand, had no expression to express, and was too lazy to respond to the children's tricks, and even if she had an expression, Tsunade couldn't see it. On this day, after her usual 10-kilometer sprint during class, Meiji prepared to rest in a corner alone as usual. The efforts have paid off. Some bugs have successfully married and are now building nests and laying eggs. The experiment has progressed to a critical moment and must be watched at all times, day and night. The reduction in rest time has caused Meiji's current mental state to be very poor. 24 hours a day feels completely insufficient. Every time at this time, Meiji will unconsciously become greedy for the shadow clone technique. Sometimes I think about this kind of thing. I create a clone and let the clone work while I rest. The main body sleeps for 8 hours and the clone works for 8 hours. If it comes and goes, doesn't it mean that there is no consumption? One person works and the other sleeps day by day. Each time he wakes up and takes over, the body immediately goes to sleep after accepting the fatigue, and the avatar continues working. Even if you sleep and work at the same time, isn't that a perpetual motion machine that works all day long? Theoretically, it should be feasible. But just thinking about it, there should actually be a lot of pitfalls in my hands. I don't have time to think about it now. The physical exertion was doubly difficult for Meiji. The feeling of long-distance running after staying up late was too ecstatic, so she had to seize every moment of free rest. But God did not fulfill people's wishes. Everyone, gather together, let's do a test. Teacher Ogawa roared at the top of his lungs. Seeing that he had attracted everyone's attention, he continued. Unlike the previous quiz, this test is a battle to evaluate your overall quality. Students who rank lower in the test should not be nervous. You still have time and opportunity to continue to work hard and improve. While saying this, Mr. Ogawa handed out the test ninja tools to the people who were queuing in confusion. The unopened kunai was a bit heavy in her hand. This was the first time Meiji had held it. At the same time, at the Hokage building, Sandai looked at the crystal in front of him and used the telescope technique. Almost instinctively, the chakra-eating parasitic bug sensed the inexplicable extra chakra in the air, causing a commotion in Meiji's body. Sensing this chakra, Meiji was a little confused. Who could be so free to secretly watch the noobs pecking each other? His eyes scanned the surroundings calmly. There were no abnormal pheromones in the air, and no abnormalities were found nearby. Was it a super long-range technique? Each choose their own opponent. Tsunadeheim, take the lead for everyone and choose an opponent. He is good-looking and cute, good at studies, and has a high status. No matter what happens to this guy Ogawa, the first thing he thinks of is Tsunade. At this time, Tsunade came out and looked at everyone. Some of the people who met Tsunade's gaze avoided them with a guilty conscience. In the eyes of everyone, although she is very cute, Tsunade is not an ordinary tiger. After running such a long distance, I was not even out of breath. What's even more outrageous is that he passed the last place by 3 laps. Thanks to the bloodline of the Senju and Uzumaki clan, this physique can be described as a monster. Every time he passed Beilu, the boy looked like he was about to burst into tears and gritted his teeth as hard as he could. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that he was in pain, but Tsunade, this fool, did not have the tenderness of a girl at all, and she ignored passage mercilessly. Thinking carefully about what Beilu became like later, no matter what, it was Tsunade's fault. Without hesitation, Tsunade looked directly at Miki. Tsunade doesn't like bullying the weak. But an exception can be made if it is a guy who ignores himself and makes himself angry. As a princess, Tsunade has the right to be willful. Come out, you don't want to hide from me all the time, Abure Miji. With her hands on her hips, her heroic high ponytail and blonde hair, the proud little princess had a flying look on her face, and she looked high-spirited and heroic. Although there is still a bit of baby fat. It's so funny, you're really good at figuring things out, I'm just too lazy to talk to you. She said that she was laughing but not laughing at all, her tone was as cold as ever. Miki walked out of the crowd and stood opposite Tsunade. The smell of gunpowder pervaded the whole place from the beginning. I've wanted to teach you a lesson for a long time. You look down on others and make people angry. I just couldn't find the opportunity, so I didn't say anything like this. Baring her teeth, Tsunade made an overly cute grin, her finger bones cracking with her small fists. Of course, Meiji didn't want to be hit even once by this seemingly young fist. The boys in the class, especially Jiraiya, had repeatedly proven how terrifying it was. You're laughing so hard, I didn't even look at you. Meiji replied casually. Hearing this, Tsunade took a deep breath, and veins popped up on her forehead. The forehead is really big. Brain gate. Then Meiji said it easily. When it comes to annoying girls, Meiji used to be a professional. You guy. Tsunade was so angry that she gritted her teeth. I will definitely beat you to death, you disgusting insect girl. You too, form the seal of opposition. Remember, you are classmates, not enemies. Competition comes first, but friendship cannot be lost. Teacher Ogawa was playing a draw next to him. Generally speaking, he didn't happen to be there when Tsunade beat someone up. This woman was not stupid. Tsunade looked at Miki coldly, holding back her anger. Miki also looked at Tsunade, her expression invisible under the mask, but Tsunade hoped she was angry, otherwise she wouldn't have said such hurtful words. This kind of words has no harmful effect on Meiji at all. But Miki didn't intend to talk such meaningless nonsense to Tsunade. Teacher, why don't you shout start? Start. After the order was given, neither of them made any move and continued to confront each other on the spot. Tsunade couldn't figure out Miki's details, so she was ready to see what Miki's path was. But Meiji doesn't want to move, she's very tired now, so let's end it quickly. One hand was raised, and the wide cuff was exposed and pointed at Tsunade. It doesn't seem to be an attack, and there is no seal. From a general rational point of view, even if the Aburame clan drives insects, they must form a seal. Tsunade was pretty sure she hadn't made a mistake in her studies. Do you really know the terror of the swarm? The moment he finished speaking, the swarm of insects went berserk. Like smoke, like rain, rolling back like rainwater, it reaches Meiji's cuffs, hood, trousers, and everywhere on her body, flying out crazily, covering the sky and the sun, and hanging heavily on Meiji like a dark cloud. The top of the head is condensed but not dispersed, and the ominous slowly surging and squirming. So much so that the light hundreds of meters nearby was dimmed by the insect swarm, making it so dim that people felt oppressive. At this time, Meiji slowly raised her hand and casually made a seal on her chest with one hand. Sa, feel my terror. Girls and boys screamed in horror outside the venue. Further away, the Sandame sat up in his chair in shock. This was definitely not the behavior a first-year ninja school student should have, even if he graduated on the spot, it would not be an exaggeration. Tsunade in the field was facing the huge swarm of insects, her hands and feet were sweating, and goosebumps were rising all over her body. On a physical level, they were moaning out of discomfort, with palpitations, and their whole bodies were completely numb. Before Tsunade could react, the swarm of insects rushed out in a roaring swarm, instantly swamping Tsunade, who turned around and ran away. Without any movement, Tsunade fell to the ground with no room for resistance, wailing miserably and struggling among the insects, and the screams echoed throughout the audience. Everyone onlookers swallowed their saliva and watched helplessly as Tsunade stopped moving and the shouting stopped. Stop it. Meiji. Teacher, I have a sense of propriety. As she spoke, Meiji called back the insect swarm and swarmed into Meiji's body, as if the previous scene was just an illusion. In the field, Tsunade looked at the sky with her dull eyes, her chest was still rising and falling slightly, drool was drooling from the corner of her mouth, and she looked broken. She was just exhausted from having too much chakra sucked out of her. There was nothing serious, and Meiji didn't bite her. Winner. Aburame Meiji. How weak. After whispering these words, Meiji returned to the queue. Everyone watched Meiji approaching and couldn't help but stir up. Following the direction of Meiji's progress, they consciously gave way to a path. It seems that they have felt the real terror. Even if you are a boy, you definitely don't want Meiji's bugs crawling all over your body. Ninja World, Insect Princess from Konoha Chapter 6, Genius. This kid is a real genius. After watching the competition, the fright that Meiji brought to the third generation has made the third generation no longer interested in the next competition, and only occasionally glanced at it. The third generation has no shortage of knowledge about the Aburame clan of the Hidden Leaf clan. The scale of Mickey's jutsu shown just now is not inferior to that of the Jounin of the Aburame clan. Due to the special nature of parasites, there are no fundamental differences between the parasites of the Aburame clan. In terms of attack power, Mickey can be said to be a Jounin of the Aburame clan. The question is, how old is she? And she hasn't formed a seal yet. Although she has formed one with one hand, the third generation has such sophisticated eyesight that it can be seen at a glance that it is too perfunctory. Rather, this guy is too lazy to hide it and is just showing off his talent. At this point, Sandai was convinced that none of the Aburame clan he had ever seen could do it. This reminded the third generation of the deceased first generation. They clapped their hands and shouted whatever they wanted. Even the second generation couldn't do this. This is especially shocking in the eyes of him, the of ninjutsu. As for the Tsar of the insect, although he knew about the Aburame clan, because its secret technique was too special, the third generation did not know its true details. He only knew that the Aburame clan's technique was considered to be yang release secret in performance. Technique. Therefore, I was puzzled to understand how this little girl Meiji did it. I can only sigh, he is indeed a genius, it is really amazing. At this time, Meiji was watching the children fighting on the sidelines, and part of her attention was still on the nest, her eyes scanning the insect corpses left in the field intentionally or unintentionally. A large area looks like a spread-out carpet. Still too weak. Parasitic bugs. These bugs are squeezed to death. As for bugs, even if they are parasitic bugs, you can't expect them to be very hard. A normal person, even a child, can crush a bug with one finger. Although the parasites are ferocious, they are still within this normal range. Its size here and quality is definitely unbeatable. Therefore, a single parasite is not scary, but the suicide attack tactics of a group are scary. There are 4 types of attacks broken down. One is to absorb chakra, which is the basic skill of parasites. The second is cutting and chewing through powerful jaws. Parasitic worms have very complex mouthparts. In addition to the large jaws for chewing, the middle tongue, the outer lobes of the small jaws and the lower lip must merge to form a food tube to chakra. This is a chewing and sucking mouthpart. It usually involves tearing open wounds that can be penetrated, burrowing into the subcutaneous tissue, or continuing to destroy and absorb chakra along the way. So it will be very painful. The third method is to raise the body temperature and form a ball to heat the target to death. It usually stops after forming a ball. It absorbs chakra to increase the body temperature through eating, and quickly raises the temperature in a closed space. After the ball is successfully formed, it will take just 10 seconds. It can bring the temperature down to more than 40 degrees. When the human body temperature rises to this temperature, the usual situation is heat stroke and fainting. The extreme temperature is close to 60 degrees, and the insects themselves will heat to death at this time. This temperature is enough to cause continuous burns under closed conditions, and its lethality is no weaker than that of fire escape. And the fourth one is the most cruel and terrifying. Kill by suffocation. The circulation of air is also sealed by clumping. The swarm of insects inside the clumping will quickly find the hole and drill in. The lower body and head are the key targets. They will block the throat, that is, the esophagus and trachea through a large influx, and cooperate with the clumping. The confined space can quickly cause death by suffocation. The manner of death was extremely painful. Generally speaking, the Aburame clan will choose to use one or two of these methods. It's not a matter of operational accuracy, but a matter of chakra consumption. Such an attack method is too extravagant. As for Meiji, she can attack all four aspects. Maximize the lethality of parasites. It costs chakra to control insects. The larger the scale and the more complex the instructions, the more you have to pay. Because the tribesmen need chakra to understand the parasites, and the same is true for the parasites. Chakra is the bridge between each other. But for Meiji, it's just a matter of thought. The bulk of this part of the chakra is not spent at all, which is why Meiji has such an abnormally large insect swarm. But this does not mean that Miki is a jounin. There is a bit of common sense that is common to the Aburame clan. How many chakras can be used to raise as many insects as possible? Plan the use of chakra. Use part of the chakra to raise insects, and use more part for fighting. According to your own situation, you can raise excess insect swarms. It will only reduce your own combat effectiveness and lead to a weakening of your continuous combat capabilities. Therefore, the larger the insect swarm is, the stronger it will be. Meiji does not need to plan the chakra for combat, and can even use all the chakra to raise insects, which is a great advantage. The Aburame clan will only increase the insect swarm depending on the situation after the fixed insect swarm is consumed. After all, raising insect eggs does not consume chakra. Basically, the strength of the Aburame clan is very small, and it also depends on how many bugs they can fight, and Miki's bugs can fight just as well as her clan members, or even a little bit stronger. But just now, Meiji only used one of the parasitic bugs' abilities, and she was far from showing the horror of the parasitic bugs. The corpses left behind by creatures attacked by parasites are terrifying. However, Tsunade will be defeated because she does not have the ninjutsu to attack in a wide range, such as fire escape. Pure physical skills would suffer greatly when faced with the insect swarm. Otherwise, the scene would not be as ugly as before, and at least it would be able to deal with it for a while. In other words, it made Meiji feel heartbroken. Miki couldn't help but look at Tsunade. At this time, Tsunade was squatting alone on the sidelines holding her knees. The body was covered with body fluids and body tissues left behind by the dead parasites, exuding a subtle smell. The child has become autistic. Under the mask, the corners of Meiji's mouth curled up. As an aftershow, it was very enjoyable. The battle test is still going on. Logically speaking, this kind of assessment is not needed at this stage. Commoner children who have no foundation will suffer greatly in this kind of test and have nothing to show at all. It is necessary to train for a period of time to tap out some potential, and then conduct this kind of test to determine each person's talent on this basis. From Miki's point of view, this is a more reliable method. If the fourth generation Minaga brings his sister here now, it will obviously be overlooked. Moreover, temporary results don't mean anything, as Mike and his son can prove. This kind of operation that goes against common sense, coupled with the secretly peeking eyes, is obviously someone who wants to see something. So, why? Just want to see everyone's potential? The third generation Hokage. Meiji looked at Tsunade calmly. Was it the secret and earnest expectation of the elder? However, it just so happened that it was time to establish a genius character. At this stage, there will be a lot of benefits overtly or covertly, there is no danger yet, and Danzo is not as extreme as he was later. An uninteresting game ended, and Meiji looked over. Focus. Because, Uchiha governance came into play. There is a saying that Meiji agrees with very much. You can see your age at the age of 3. Real geniuses are different from ordinary people since they were young. Ninja World, Insect Princess from Konoha Chapter 7, Konoha's first generation of heroes. The opponents of Uchiha governance are their own clansmen. Another boy in the class named Uchiha Yashiro has a fairy-like hedgehog head with squinting eyes and a fierce face. His appearance is really hip-high among Uchiha, but the look on his face is the same arrogance and pride of Uchiha. Uchiha, who has long wavy hair, is the opposite of him. Regardless of his appearance or the gentle expression on his face, he looks weak and not strong at all. But he is the opponent actively chosen by Uchiha governance. This approach means that the governance has always been deeply rooted in Uchiha pride and disdains fighting with the weak, that is, classmates, even if there is Hinata among them. Yashiro is quite strong among boys, and if his opponent is from the same race, he doesn't have to save face to show sympathy. Among the Uchiha clan, the more gentle and kind-hearted a guy is, the more terrifying he is. The more such a guy is, the easier it is to feel the stimulation of negative emotions and open his eyes. Governance is such a character, different from ordinary Uchiha. After turning on the kaleidoscope, he goes to extremes in negative emotional stimulation. Governance is gentle from beginning to end, so he developed a short-lasting but amazingly beautiful technique like Hanabi. Izana beautiful. Therefore, this girl is particularly scary. As for the Izanami technique, it behaves very gently and persuades people to do good. It is essentially a terrifying technique that distorts the spirit and personality like the strongest illusion technique of other gods. Shui Shui Shursui is the most powerful genjutsu that comes with opening the kaleidoscope, but the management is developed independently. Counting from the Uchiha Civil War, it took 2 to 3 years. Compared with Shursui, it is not difficult to see who is better. Not to mention, governance also successfully prevented the Uchiha civil strife and delayed the collapse of the Uchiha clan. It is unceremonious to say that governance was the strongest Uchiha at that time. To put it more exaggeratedly, the Sannin of the same period were not enough for her to fight. The more she thinks about it carefully, the more Meiji will pay attention to the little girl in front of her. After the ceremonial seal of opposition, the battle ended in an instant. Uchiha at this age cannot yet use his signature fire escape, although Miki doubts the governance. But governance was useless. The two of them rushed toward each other. At the moment when they crossed paths, many people didn't see clearly. Yashiro was knocked to the ground by governance. He then suppressed him and got up, Wu Feng's kunai pressed against his neck. The process of a clean and instant kill, and the performance of physical skills to this extent, means that there has been a generational gap in technology between the two parties. It is basically an adult beating a child. Victor. Uchiha governance. Uchiha stood up and politely expressed his gratitude for the advice. Hateful. But Yashiro obviously didn't realize the gap between the two, thinking that there was only a slight difference, and his face was full of reluctance. However, someone realized it, Hinata Hitomi, staring deeply at governance with a pair of white eyes, looking at him non-stop. As an expert in physical arts for generations, she has never seen a pig run away, but she has eaten meat. At home, her father beat her like this, always clean and neat. Inya bit her lower lip tightly, with a look of unwillingness on her face. Drop to 4th place. The current ranking in the class is that Miki is 1st, Tsunade is 2nd, Uchiha is 3rd, and she is 4th. Although there was no fighting, she could not defeat either Tsunade or governance. Among them, Tsunade is not technically as delicate as herself, but one punch will definitely kill her. And when he hit Tsunade, judging by what Byakugan observed inside the little monster, it was basically a scratching attack. The battle dragged into a fierce battle. Under the competition of chakra consumption, the only one who could lose was himself. In observation, governance's chakra is about the same as his own, so his attacks can cause a lot of trouble to governance, but the key to the problem is that governance's technology is more delicate than his own. She didn't see many of the moves clearly, and the battle ended inexplicably. That abnormal shooting speed, if you don't see through this, you will only face failure. These monsters. Hinata gritted her teeth and looked at Miki. She didn't want to take another look at the situation inside Meiji's body. This monster among monsters. Don't even think about leaving me. Finally, it's time for me to take the stage. Who's going to fight me? With Jiraiya's exaggerated laughter, all the boys looked at Jiraiya eager to try. The current Jiraiya is not enough. He quickly chooses his opponent and the battle begins. It is a very standard novice pecking each other. There are heavy blows and cries of pain. They beat each other with a punch. From time to time, they enter the classic scolding session. A fierce and evenly matched battle. Very civilian. It's just a matter of comparing who has rough skin and rough flesh. Tsunade looked at the sky blankly. The massive extraction of chakra had not yet allowed her to recover. Hinata Hitomi looked at Miki. Meiji looked at Jiji, not knowing how to detect her gaze under Meiji's mask. Jiji looked at Meiji with a shy but gentle smile. Seeing this, Hinata gritted her teeth and turned her head bitterly without looking. That monster never looked at me. Monsters do notice monsters. Miki nodded slightly in response to Uchiha governance. As expected, this girl cannot be underestimated. Her eyes opened. Even for a moment, the parasitic bug had captured the unusually cold chakra. It is unmistakable. As a product of yang escape, parasites are particularly sensitive to yin escape. The young body is not enough to use the Sharingan for a long time, so it is an extremely skillful and smart way to turn it on and off instantly to gain insight and capture the winning opportunity in the battle, thereby reducing the burden and consumption. And for such a brief moment, no one except Meiji noticed her opening her eyes, which meant that this girl had extremely excellent fighting instincts, consciousness and reflexes. Uchiha governance is a true monster. Uchiha. In the distance, the third generation stared at the governance in the crystal and took a puff of cigarette. This kid's physical skills are a little better than Tsunade's. He also seems to have a good personality. Then, the Sandaime looked at Jiraiya, who was covered in bruises, shouting and giggling after the victory. Can't help but smile. What a lively and tenacious child. Then he looked at Meiji again, with deep eyes. This child seemed not lively enough, but when I thought about the generally autistic character of the Aburame clan, I felt relieved. At least her last name wasn't Uchiha. So the next step is how to get in touch. It's a bit troublesome. It would be great if he was easy to deceive at first glance like this silly white-haired boy. On the court, it was Hinata Hitomi's turn. Looking at the bandage on Hinata Hitomi's head, the third generation's eyes darkened. Such a young child must bear such a heavy fate. I saw this child myself at the beginning of school, with that ignorant and innocent look on his face. Unknowingly, he already had such a cold expression. It's really a cruel growth. Family. Talking about a village where Konoha is as close as a family and allows children to grow up happily without worries, as a Hokage, I really failed. Sandai couldn't help but laugh to himself. The first generation and the second generation are really giving people problems. Ha! Soft fist. The moment the battle started, he rushed forward like a tiger and struck his opponent's parrying hands with a palm. Compared to Hinata, who generally prefers defensive counterattacks, Hinata Hitomi is very aggressive. Meiji still remembers the weak look of this girl when she first met her, but now she has put on a layer of armor in her heart. It's okay to say she's strong. It's okay to say she's fragile. Due to his young age, although he has mastered the Ro fist, he is still unable to penetrate the subcutaneous muscles and chakra, attack the meridians and internal organs, and cause instant paralysis of the opponent. But it can be seen that the opponent was very painful when hit by Hinata Hitomi's seemingly ineffective palm. The pain in his chest was wide open, and then he was lightly impressed on the chest by Hinata Hitomi's palm. He fell to the ground screaming in pain and could not get up again. Compared to the pain caused by punches and physical blows when fighting with other boys, the pain caused by this girl was too insidious. Just like a needle prick, the unlucky child Bei Lyohu felt that he would faint from the pain at any time, and cried out happily. Some of them hate themselves for choosing such an opponent. Because I really can't forget the way Hinata Hitomi was fainted by Miki in the beginning and was easy to bully. Hinata Hitomi won easily. Looking at Bai Luhu who fell to the ground, he snorted. Although he didn't want to fight this kind of guy, there was no opponent worth fighting anymore. Now it didn't matter who it was, and he asked for it himself, so he couldn't blame anyone. He is a very outstanding child. The third generation is smoking a pipe. There are so many talented people in Konoha. Ninja World, Insect Princess from Konoha Chapter 8, of course it would trigger a ninja war. After the first basic test, the school curriculum suddenly became arduous. The age of 5 or 6 is the time to lay the foundation. The proportion of various basic and cultural courses has been appropriately reduced. Needless to say, simple courses such as 1+1, most children from ordinary families can barely read. Wrote. At this time, the teacher handed out a chakra extraction manual and asked the students to go home and study on their own. In order to allow students to feel chakra more intuitively, the proportion of basic physical training has been increased a lot. Basically, I exercise all morning, study cultural classes, and then continue to exercise until school is over. The content of cultural classes is rich and miscellaneous, including Chinese mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology and politics. Most of the daily cultural classes are Chinese language and politics. The main thing is to learn and understand that thing called the will of fire. Some of the doctrinal content is still crude and false in its infancy. Not practical capitalism and socialism, but extremely naive and ideal dedicationism. Devotion that is completely altruistic and does not benefit oneself is anti-human. Therefore, this thing is the political proposition of 3 generations, a blank check that looks good, and whoever believes it will be stupid. And ninjas are not stupid at all. Especially the family ninjas who were killed during the Warring States period. There is a clear separation between the village and the family. The new generation of ninjas who grew up in the village have not yet grown up. As the 3rd generation, they are now controlled by the family in every way. Even though he was in his prime, he was still worried about it. Uchiha is the most thorny in the family, followed by Senju, and then Hinata. These are the 3 major wealthy families in Konoha. As for the small families at the lower level, Inakacho has been an ally of the Sarutobi family since ancient times. Others are not fuel-efficient lamps. Among them, the Kurama clan is almost on par with the Uchiha. As a big clan, it is a crime to be big. Then came the Shimura clan, who gradually began to have the right to speak because of Danzo's relationship. The Inuzuka clan has an unusually wolfish and exclusive nature. And in the end, the Aburame clan seemed to have no sense of existence, carrying out ninja mysticism to the end, and being extremely xenophobic and mysterious. As the 3rd generation, he must solve the problems of these families. In the long run, Konoha will not be Konoha, it will either fall apart or be a family wearing Konoha skin. The Foresight Nidame has already left a feasible path, which is the Konoha Ninja School to support the civilian ninja group against the family ninja. And it will take time for this to be effective. The ninja school was founded in Konoha 8 years ago, and it has been 8 years now. Not counting the 2nd generation disciples in the same period, the first class of students are still no more than chunin. They have absolutely no say in the village. At present, the main focus is to win over some groups and suppress others. At the same time, as the 3rd generation, one must also train successors to inherit the position of the 4th generation. As the Senju clan's strong supporter of Hiruzen Sarutobi's rise to power, Princess Tsunade must be a disciple of the 3rd generation. This is a will that the Senju clan cannot refuse. And these families cannot be trusted, so the remaining disciples must choose from common people. Senju would never agree to choosing another family, in case Tsunade's journey to the top would be unexpected. Therefore, Hinata and Uchiha were excluded. In the same way, neither can the Kurama clan, she is no weaker than Uchiha. The Shimura clan is even worse and cannot allow Danzo to continue to grow. The Inuzuka clan is fierce and unpleasant. His family's ninjutsu is excellent, but not extremely good. There are limits to your abilities as a ninja. Although this clan will not arouse the hostility of Senju. As for the Aburame clan, this clan has no sense of existence and is isolated from the village. It is difficult for the 3rd generation to confirm the sincerity of this clan. There is a vague feeling that this clan is a spectator in Konoha. Rather, Aburame, who has no ties to the village, is more like a tenant, and has an attitude of not participating in some of the village's troubles. It is a bit difficult to easily pull him into the battle line. And because they are a small tribe, they are secretive and have few members. They do not marry with other tribes, and because of their secret skills in controlling insects, they are extremely unpopular. Therefore, it is difficult to grow large and arouse the hostility of Senju. Therefore, there should be no problem in accepting a genius from such a family as a disciple. After all, he is the Sandaime Hokage, so it would be too disgraceful to look at Senju's face. It doesn't matter if Senju misunderstands that he is winning over other ninjas. Now they must rely on themselves to stabilize the situation in the village. With his cigarette holder in his mouth, Hiruzen Sarutobi looked at the little girl's figure in the crystal ball. He had been observing the child for a week. I didn't see any special behavior from this child. There was no extra training or anything like that. After school, he went straight to the forbidden area, the Forest of Death, which was very dangerous for these ninja students. For many Chunin, the Death Forest is equally dangerous. As for this child, his posture was as relaxed as if he were strolling in his own garden. This made the third generation a little surprised, and they appreciated it even more. What makes the third generation even more surprised is that this child is most likely the first bloodline limiter in the history of the Aburame clan. It is foreseeable how far she can go beyond the Aburame clan in history, but we do not expect her to be able to surpass the level of the first generation. As long as she can reach or even surpass herself, it will be worthy of today's thoughts. Now, this child has indeed surpassed many people, and the future is worth looking forward to. However, this child's behavior really left the third generation a little confused. What does it mean to go here and watch insects in a daze instead of practicing properly? It's been a week, but Sandai didn't see the reason, so he decided to try it himself. The sight disappeared. The sight that had been following me since the end of the exam left early today. This was abnormal, and Meiji, who had endured a week without going to the secret base to play with the cuties, didn't mind continuing to endure it. Anyway, the process of the experiment has not stopped, it is just that the operation is a little troublesome, and the genetic mutation that needs to be guided by myself cannot be carried out. The reason for not going home early was because the mother might ask her why she came home early, which would expose some information. While thinking about some experimental matters, a sudden sound of wind came from behind Meiji. Without warning, the insect swarm exploded, wrapping the shuriken behind Meiji, forcing it to stop. Kid, your bugs are really scary. As a master of ninjutsu, the third generation is familiar with many secrets of ninjutsu in Konoha and even the ninja world. Generally, the Aburame clan needs to drive insects for attack and defense. The bug itself is unconscious. This means that if it is an undetected sneak attack, the Aburame clan will not be able to react in time and be injured. Sandai felt that there was no reason for his stealth to be discovered by a kid. Therefore, this is the insect's spontaneous behavior of protecting its owner. And this is just what it looks like. Parasitic bugs will not automatically protect their owners. Essentially, parasitic bugs are biological machines that need instructions to activate actions. So, the fact is that Meiji discovered his sneaking. This forest is full of Meiji's insects, so you can come and go as freely as if you were visiting a garden. The scary thing is never the bug but Meiji herself. Hearing this, Meiji turned to look at the visitor. Wearing ANBU attire and wearing a forehead protector from another village. He couldn't help but tilt his head in confusion. Are you stupid? Huh? The unexpected question made Sandai look at Mickey and wait for the answer. It's impossible for a guy from an outer village like you to sneak into Konoha. Mickey crossed her arms and said, you are a clan member sent by Tsunade to take revenge. This is of course impossible. Meiji also knows. A very smart little guy, although he guessed wrong, Sandai thought. I'm a spy lurking in Konoha. Meiji sighed and said, so, why do spies want to die wearing forehead protectors? Of course it's to trigger a ninja war. Sandai roared enthusiastically. But I'm not that valuable, idiot. Mickey said in a cold tone, looking helplessly at the idiot, there is a guy named Tsunade over there. You should go find her. She is the princess of Konoha. The direction he points to is his family's residence. The corner of Sandai's mouth twitched. Is it a woman's talent to lie without blinking an eye? Why can she say it so naturally? What were I doing when I was this age? What a pity. Now that you have seen my true face, I can no longer keep you. With that said, Sandai took out his kunai and looked at Mickey. Meiji looked at Sandai, showing no intention of moving at all. Why don't you get your weapons out? No. Surprisingly simple answer. Sandai raised his eyebrows and growled, then go to hell. He raised his hand and threw out the kunai. Swarms of insects flew up. This time, Meiji didn't even bother to perform a single hand seal. The result of the encounter between the two is the same as before. The kunai stayed in the swarm of insects. The third generation's eyelids twitched. The fact that there was no seal was still extremely shocking when he saw it again. What a monster this is. Ninja World, Insect Princess from Konoha Chapter 9, Ideal. What a powerful insect. Although it was not full strength, it was still 70% to 80% strong. The ordinary Aburame clan would never be able to stop it in this way. Even if it could, it wouldn't be possible with this number of bugs. So the answer is that this child's parasite is stronger than anyone else in her clan. Is it a mutation caused by the blood inheritance limit? While thinking about it, the third generation rushed forward and punched the back of Mickey's head in the blind spot. Under the mask, Meiji curled her lips. Her combat vision was 360 degrees, day and night, in the sky and on the ground, with no blind spots. Sometimes I feel like the old man in the control room guarding a large number of monitors. There's a lot of fun to be had. Although there are too many things happening at the same time and it may be a bit overwhelming for the brain to handle, it is not a big problem. Behind Meiji, a swarm of insects erupted, and a swarm as big as several door panels rushed toward Sandai. This thing will burrow into the flesh. If you are not a member of the Hyuga clan, it is best not to have physical contact with it. Even 3 generations. Troublesome ability. He was talking about the insect protector. When he whispered, the third generation had quickly retreated to a safe distance. Looking at the ninja who distanced himself from the insect, Meiji curled her lips. She is very aware of this weakness. Due to the flying speed of bugs, against faster opponents, bugs often cannot catch up. Even after being optimized by Meiji, the strength of the body structure has been improved. In response to this, tribesmen often set traps through insect swarms to prevent prey from escaping. Meiji plans to optimize the structure of the wings, which is very suitable for the dragonfly, the king of flying. With a speed of 100 km per hour and a burst speed of 40 meters per second, it is enough to deal with ninjas. The trouble is, the wings of dragonflies are not elytra like parasitic insects. They are easily damaged and difficult to store. Such insects cannot be stored in the body. Even if you carry a bug pot on your back like the tribesmen do, you won't be able to hold much. The solution was psychic magic, but Meiji didn't have it. Art Fire escaped Fireball. Facing the insect group that continued to pursue them, the third generation of seals released ninjutsu. He shouted out to remind him. How worried was he that someone would accidentally kill him? Looking at the huge fireball carrying an intense heat wave, Meiji did not dodge. As he raised his hand, more insects flew up from his body, forming a black mist larger than the fireball and floating towards the fireball. Attack against attack. Sandai raised his eyebrows in surprise. According to common sense, it is impossible for insects to confront fire head-on. Unfortunately, this is the fire escape transformed by chakra, which is essentially chakra in a state of intense movement. Bugs are parasites that eat chakra. The two collided head-on, and instantly, a subtle fragrance floated in the air, while fire release was like a wave that had stopped moving forward, blocked by parasites. For a time, the charred corpses of insects covered the forest grass with a thick layer. If it's just this level, you will die here. She said harsh words indifferently, and Meiji reminded the other party that she was going to use a bigger move. Secret technique. Insect cage. As soon as he finished speaking, within a radius of 100 meters, dozens of pillars made of insects quickly rose from the ground, rushed into the sky and connected together to form a huge and terrifying birdcage. The third generation turned to look at the insect cage that trapped him and was ready to go, and couldn't help but ask. When? While you're throwing the shuriken. Meiji replied, but in fact, when he broke into Meiji's safe distance, Meiji carefully laid a trap. In the forest site, the fallen leaves, flowers, grass and trees on the ground are natural shields for insects, making it difficult for the enemy to detect the movements of the insect swarms. Sinai. The outstretched hand clenched violently into a fist, and the swarm of parasites that received the command simultaneously poured down from the sky. Is it still too late to form seals at this time? Normally a jounin would be too late. The third generation is not among the ordinary. As the strongest figure in Konoha, he will not fall to such tricks. Earth escape. Earth formation by. The earthen walls on all sides were raised, followed by the completion of the topping. Like a heavy rainstorm, the crackling sounds continued one after another, and the entire earth formation jade trembled slightly under the impact. With the thickness of earth escape, this level of impact is not enough to break through, but the bugs have mouthparts. Seek death. Meiji looked at the defensive position surrounded by swarms of insects and snorted coldly. The third generation of earth escape could not help but frown as they looked at the sporadic parasites that quickly broke through the earth wall and emerged from the earth. Are the Aburame clan so troublesome? While thinking about it, he formed the seals with his hands leisurely. I'll teach you a lesson first. Don't let the enemy out of your sight at any time. The third generation murmured and activated the ninjutsu. There was no kind reminder this time, the third generation, he was a little more serious. Looking at the ninja slowly sinking into the ground through the insect's vision, Meiji chuckled. Therefore, never create a blind spot in your field of vision. The so-called ninja war is essentially an intelligence war, and the collection of intelligence is the top priority. Meiji raised her hands and formed the 8 seals. The three-body art of transformation. Meiji is not a genius. It is common sense for ninjas to release ninjutsu and form seals. It's over. With a violent roar, a hand broke out from the ground, grabbed Meiji's calf fiercely, and when his arm pulled Meiji down hard, Sandai's whole body went to the ground at the same time. At the same time, at this moment, Meiji's entire figure collapsed under the force and turned into a swarm of flying insects. Bug clone. It was when I was activating the decapitation technique in my earth escape heart. What an excellent fighting sense. The next second, due to the unprepared contact with the insect clone at close range, the shadow clone could not withstand the bite of the insect, and the whole thing turned into smoke and exploded. Careless. Near the forest, the third generation held a cigarette rod in his mouth and took a drag depressedly. This kid. He is indeed a genius. There was the sound of cracking branches and leaves in the forest. Sandai turned around and saw a small figure in the shadows of the forest, slowly walking towards the path in the forest. Before Sandai could ask, Meiji's cordial greetings filled his face. Sandem-sama, have you seen an idiot claiming to be a spy? Hearing this, Sandai took a deep drag on his cigarette and said, really? Is there such a person? Ah, it's really weird. The third generation is obviously nearby, so how did that idiot sneak in? Meiji continued, intentionally or unintentionally emphasizing the pronunciation of the idiot. The third generation smoked sullenly. This kid must have discovered something, and he has to think of a decent reason. Since the third generation is here, I don't care about that idiot. The third generation breathed a sigh of relief. So, are the third generations here to relax? Yes, little girl, what are you doing here? I'm just relaxing too. Meiji said slightly coldly, bowing slightly and preparing to leave. Etc. Meiji looked at the third generation. Seeing Meiji acting out of common sense, it was very unexpected, and Sandai asked. Do you have any ideals? Little one. Ideal? Meiji didn't want to answer such a boring question, so after laughing out loud, she said coldly, ideal is the sea of stars. The sea of stars? The third generation looked at Mickey with a confused look. I don't quite understand this ideal. I want to fly into the sky. Meiji said seriously, shoulder to shoulder with the sun. Sandai opened his mouth, but stopped talking. Although I didn't understand it very well, I was shocked. What a wonderful child. Don't you want to be Hokage? Nowadays, many children want to become as powerful as the second-generation Hokage. I don't want to. Meiji objected. Why? How about dancing? The third generation felt that there was a big problem with this child's designation. Then you want to become the Hokage's disciple? In no mood. Why is this? I don't even want to become Hokage, so why should I become Hokage's disciple? Meiji asked back. Sandai took a deep breath from his cigarette and said, Look, I know a lot of ninjutsu, and I am known as the of ninjutsu in the ninja world. Do you want to learn ninjutsu? Really? Meiji raised her hand, which was covered with bad bugs, and asked, Can you teach me this? Sandai took another deep breath of cigarette. Don't you have any other ninjutsu you want to learn? Have. Sandai's eyes lit up and he said, Whatever you want to learn, I'll teach you. Ninja World, Insect Princess from Konoha Chapter 10, Princess. What ninjutsu do you want to learn? What I want most at the moment is indeed the art of psychics, shadow clones, etc. After becoming a ninja, I have plenty of time and opportunity to learn. Moreover, Meiji is not short of time now. There is still plenty of time when World War II begins, and there is no need for shadow clones to increase the intensity of work. So. Sealing technique? Meiji asked, Can you do it? Yes. Sandai replied in the affirmative, and he wanted to feel proud with his hands on his hips for a while. Oh, Meiji raised her voice a little and said, Are you the best in sealing skills in the village? The third generation choked. There is someone else who has the highest level of sealing skills in the village, but she does not accept any disciples. Moreover, even the Hokage, the third generation could not ask her to do this kind of thing. Sandai said, Of course it's me. As he spoke, he blushed, looked away unnaturally, and spoke in a weak tone. I feel guilty for lying to children. Today's third generation is really young. Meiji chuckled and asked, Really? Really? Sandai affirmed, How about it, do you want to be my disciple and learn ninjutsu? I don't want to. Meiji said simply. Why? The third generation asked in confusion, his voice rising an octave. I don't want to talk to someone who lies to kids. After saying this, Meiji turned around and left in a cool manner. Sandai watched Mickey leave in a daze, scratching his head frantically for a while. This kid is so difficult to deal with. With a snort, Sandai turned around and left bitterly. Without your genius Mickey, wouldn't there be other geniuses in Konoha? The kid named Orochimaru is very outstanding. As an orphan and a commoner, he has become proficient in using the three-body technique in just a short time after entering the school. It can be said with certainty that there will be no problem in graduating on the spot. Even though the same textbooks were distributed, some people just knew how to preview them and still learned them. There is nothing to say about his attitude towards learning or his talent. But the most powerful sealing technique? Hey, they are all children of Konoha, it would be a pity not to cultivate them. Along the way, Sandai smoked a cigarette in a dull mood, thinking about this matter. On the way back, Meiji no longer noticed the prying chakra, and the same happened the next day, and she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although there is nothing wrong with the experiment, it is just a bit cruel to small animals, and it can easily be misunderstood as indicating some psychological problem. Especially for a child like Meiji, if she dissects a cat or dog, she will definitely be regarded as a pervert. Therefore, Meiji doesn't want anyone to know. The exception is Orochimaru. This pervert has been perverted since he was a child. He is also smart. It would be good to trick him into becoming a coolie. Moreover, Mickey didn't want to be a sannin. Her career plan was to be a Konoha doctor and stay away from ninja assignments. This would save a lot of time for research. Although, being a disciple of Hokage definitely has many hidden privileges. One of them is the Hokage inheritance. Meiji doesn't need these things. Moreover, what is gained is what is lost. Being expected and noticed by everyone, Meiji does not want to taste it again. I had enough in my previous life. This time I just want to live freely. Live carefree like a bird. The most important thing is that Mickey doesn't like that guy Sandai, and she kind of hates him in the future. Don't really want to see him. Now, since the third generation has discovered something unusual about himself, the clan will soon hear similar rumors. The Aburame clan is not weak, and they have the resources of the clan. They cannot learn any ordinary ninjutsu. From the beginning, Meiji's target was the clan, and she deliberately exposed it to the third generation in order to check and balance the clan. With the ability he has shown, he will definitely be taken to the direction of the blood succession limit by the ninja's inertial thinking. And Meiji was not sure how tempting a naturally born blood-stained ninja would be to the guys in the family. It would be ridiculous if they were treated like breeding pigs and used for breeding in the name of protection. Meiji doesn't mind using the most vicious thoughts to guess people's hearts. He is still too weak and has no ability to fight against his family. The family's actions were not slow, and on the third day after meeting 3 generations, family members who were not usually seen were finally met. Why don't you see them normally? It's because they are from the Hidden Leaf clan. The tribesmen are all very autistic and taciturn. You don't want to talk much but still want to meet someone. Secondly, the Aburame clan has no clan territory and is scattered throughout the village. Due to their personality, most of them live in remote areas. In the early years of Konoha's founding, when the Aburame clan joined, they took advantage of many things, and the land was one of them. The first generation was very generous and said that you can choose whatever you want. This looks like what the first generation could do. That's pretty much it for the Aburame clan. Originally, the Aburame clan was very annoying, but it would be even more annoying if a group of Aburame stayed together for a long time. In order to integrate into Konoha, the clan leader at that time very wisely violated the tradition of the Warring States period and scattered the clan members throughout the village to facilitate integration. Meiji appreciates this very much and is very discerning. As a wealthy family has been together for a long time, I'm afraid they don't have any evil intentions. Secondly, the tribesmen living in various places around the village are natural surveillance sentinels. However, the clan does have a place that is convenient for gatherings. The last time it was used was during the First Ninja War. Normally, there would be a group of tribesmen stationed there. It's said to be a garrison, but it's basically a vacation. Dad even complained about this in his notebook. Meiji saw people from the clan at home, 3 old men who were about to die, all dressed in costumes relics of the Warring States period, and all wearing evil ghost masks. Only the mask color is different. Speaking of which, the rise of sunglasses only happened in the past few years. This thing did not exist 10 years ago. Meiji's mask was left by her father, a relic of her grandfather. Her father didn't want it because it was too tacky, so he followed the trend and wore cool sunglasses. Meiji actually thinks this mask is very pretty. The sunglasses are ugly, they look like a blind person getting a massage. You must be Xiao Meiji. Meiji looked at the rickety old man in the lead and nodded. She was walking unsteadily and was leaning on a cane. The momentum was very sad, although he worked hard to stand up straight. I am your grandpa Gio. Good guy, he becomes a relative as soon as he comes up. Shameless enough, I like it. Your mother is my daughter. Meiji blinked. Good guy, I've never seen this man before in my life. Call grandpa quickly, Meiji. The mother beside her said anxiously. Meiji said nothing. Scream if you like. Ha! As he said that, the old guy chopped the cane. Mother Yume was afraid to shut up. The name Mickey is too weak. It is not suitable for a princess of the Aburame clan. From today on, you are called Mushiheim. Good guy. Good guy. Meiji repeatedly called, good guy. From now on, you will lead the Aburame clan. I hate this kind of arbitrary old man the most. Although she had no hope, Meiji felt that she should refuse. What kind of clan is this? They have a burden and an honor. It sounds very troublesome. Well, you haven't asked me if I am willing. Humph. It's not up to you. Unless you kill us 3 old guys on the spot. Ah, this. The Aburame clan is one of the few ninjas whose physical condition declines as they age, but their combat effectiveness does not decrease much. The swarm can only iterate but never grow old. Even though these old guys from the Warring States period are about to be buried, they are probably extremely capable of fighting. Okay, then I'll be called Chongji. Chongji said weakly. I haven't asked you who you are yet. I am the former head of the Aburame clan. Oh, that guy who was very discerning during the Warring States period. He joined Konoha when he couldn't win with his entire clan. Well, I wonder how my father, who is just a jounin, can get the money to open a hotel, while my mother is a rich second generation. As for being able to marry my mother, I'm afraid she is handsome. Although I have never seen my father's face, I don't look much like my mother, so there's no need to say who I look like. For a time, Meiji thought of a lot. Damn it, all these calculations were in vain. If I had known it, I would have just shown it to the clan. This cheap grandpa is a sensible person,